Hello, English learners, and welcome back to English for Everyday, your home for real-life English learning. Today's session is going to change the way you look at fluency. Yes, you heard that right. In this video, I'll tell you how just 50 words, yes, only 50, helped me speak English confidently, naturally, and fluently. Now, let me share with you the true story of how 50 powerful words transformed my English. They told me I'd need 2,000 words to have a conversation, 5,000 to read a newspaper, 10,000 to understand movies. So how did I start speaking confidently with just 50? It sounds like clickbait, but this isn't about shortcuts. It's not a magic trick. It's about rewiring how we think about language and realizing that everything we've been told about fluency might be completely wrong. Let me take you back. I'd tried everything: flashcards, grammar books, Duolingo streaks, podcasts, online courses. I built elaborate study schedules, color-coded my notes, and downloaded every language app that promised fluency in just 15 minutes a day. But the truth? I couldn't hold a simple conversation. I'd freeze every time someone asked me something in real life. All those words I had memorized, they'd vanish the second I needed them. It felt like my brain was buffering endlessly. I wasn't a beginner anymore, but I wasn't fluent either. I was stuck in what I call language limbo, the most frustrating place to be. And then something strange happened. I stumbled across a post online, barely a sentence long, from someone claiming they got fluent enough to survive conversations with just 50 words. No long guide, just a throwaway comment in an old forum thread. I laughed. It sounded ridiculous. 50 words, that's what you learn on your first day, right? But the idea wouldn't leave me alone. What if I stopped chasing more and started focusing on less? So I tried it. I pulled the 50 most common, most essential words from real conversations. No random nouns like giraffe or castle. I picked verbs, prepositions, connectors, the glue of real speech. Words like go, want, can, where, what, this, and that. And instead of memorizing them the traditional way, I used them obsessively. I built sentences. I talked to myself. I described my daily routine using only those 50 words. I created stories. I improvised fake conversations. I used them in text messages. I even tried ordering food with them. Poorly at first, but it worked. Something clicked. Because I was using a tiny vocabulary constantly, those 50 words became automatic. I didn't have to think. They lived in my mouth. I could reach for them without hesitation. And with just those 50, I could say a lot. I could express needs, ask questions, describe things, make jokes, simply, imperfectly, but effectively. And that's when fluency began. Not textbook fluency, not perfect pronunciation, but the kind of fluency that matters most. Being able to connect, to communicate, to be understood. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact method I used to choose my 50 words. Why most people waste time trying to learn too much. How using less vocabulary more often reprograms your brain to think in your target language. And how you can apply this strategy today, even if you're starting from scratch. If you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or like you just aren't good at languages, this video is for you. Because the problem isn't you. The problem is the method. And sometimes doing less is the smartest thing you can do. Fluency doesn't begin when you know everything. It begins when you can use just enough really well. And 50 words might be more than enough. the myth of knowing more. We've been told for years, the more words you know, the better you'll speak. It sounds logical, right? After all, vocabulary is the building block of language. So you grab an app, cram word lists, hit your daily streak, and hope that one day it will all just click. But here's the brutal truth. You can know 2,000 words and still be speechless in a real conversation. And I should know because I was that person. At one point, I had over 3,000 flashcards in my deck. I'd learned thousands of words. I could recognize them in multiple choice tests. I could recall definitions. I had green check marks all over my app dashboard. But the moment I opened my mouth to speak, nothing. It was like my vocabulary was locked behind a glass wall. I could see the words in my mind, but I couldn't reach them when I needed them. My brain was trying to play Tetris with a million pieces and no time. And I started asking myself, what's the point of knowing all these words if I can't use them? That's when I discovered something that changed everything. Fluency is not about how many words you know. It's about how many you can use without thinking. Think about it. You've probably had moments in your native language where you couldn't find the perfect word, but you still explained yourself, right? You found another way. You simplified. You communicated. That's fluency. Not perfection, not elegance, just being able to express an idea, however messy it comes out. But traditional language learning flips this upside down. It treats vocabulary like a game of collecting coins. The more you gather, the better your score. But in real life, nobody cares how many words you know. They care if you can talk. Here's a shocking fact. In most everyday conversations, native speakers use a core of just 500 to 1,000 words, over and over again. Not fancy literary terms, not rare idioms, just simple, functional, high-frequency vocabulary. And even crazier, with just the top 100 words in any language, you can understand up to 50% of all spoken communication. Let that sink in. 50% from just 100 words. Now imagine what happens when you don't try to memorize those 100, but master a subset of 50 and use them intensely. You start thinking in the language. You stop translating. You stop second-guessing. Instead of having a giant pile of passive knowledge, you build a tiny set of active skills. Words you've practiced in dozens of situations. Words your brain doesn't have to reach for, because they're already at the front of your mind. And that's the shift. I stopped trying to know more. I started trying to use better. Instead of wasting energy memorizing mountain, university, or pencil case, words I might hear once every few months, I focused on want, need, go, like, if, how, this, there, and because. Suddenly, I could express anything. Not perfectly, but clearly. I want this. Can you go there? Because I don't know how. Simple, but powerful. Because once you can say what you think, even in broken pieces, you gain confidence. You stop fearing conversations. You engage with the language instead of hiding from it. And that's where real fluency grows. Not from endless vocabulary drills. Not from memorizing every type of fruit or household item, but from living in a language, even if your tools are basic. Think of it like cooking. You don't need 100 spices to make a delicious meal. You need a few that you know how to use. Garlic, salt, pepper, olive oil. Use them well and you can cook almost anything. Language is the same. Use your few ingredients, your core 50 words, and suddenly you're not stuck anymore. You're improvising, you're creating, you're speaking. Here's another example. When toddlers start speaking, they don't wait until they know enough. They use the same few words in every possible way. Want that? Go now. No eat. It's simple, and yet it works. And we understand them perfectly. Adults can learn the same way, but we're conditioned to believe we need to prepare more before we speak. That hesitation becomes a trap. You don't need permission to use the language. You just need words you trust. So ask yourself, would you rather know 2,000 words and say nothing? Or master 50 and actually talk? Because fluency isn't about cramming your brain. It's about freeing your voice, and the fewer words you need to think about, the faster you'll speak. Picking the right 50 words. So, 50 words. It's a bold idea, but not all words are created equal. You might be thinking, which 50? Do I just pick my favorite ones? Random verbs and nouns? The first words I find in a textbook? No, there's a system to this, and it's surprisingly simple. Let's start with a question. If you were stranded in a foreign country and could only carry a list of 50 words to survive, what would you choose? Probably not elephant or museum, right? You'd pick words that help you move, ask, explain, react. Words that work like Lego pieces, that snap together to build meaning. That's exactly how I chose mine. The goal is functionality, not variety. We're not aiming to name every object in the room. We're aiming to communicate what we need, what we want, what we feel. Let me give you a peek at what was on my original list. Verbs like go, want, need, have, know, like can question words. What, where, why, how, when. Pronouns and helpers. I, you, he, she, it, we, they. Connectors. Because, if, and or, but high utility nouns, this, that, thing, place, time. A few adjectives, good, bad, more, same, different. You'd be amazed at how much you can say with those. I want this. Where do you go? I don't know why. This thing is good. Can we go to that place? It's not poetry, but it's power. It's agency. It gets the job done. That's what matters in the beginning. Not elegance, but usability. So how do you pick your 50? There are 3 key principles. 1. Frequency. First, use frequency lists. These are lists of the most commonly used words in real conversations. Not academic writing, not novels. Actual day-to-day speech. You can find these online for almost every language. Start with the top 100 or 200 and pick 50 that are flexible and common across many situations. Why frequency? Because the most frequent words cover the most ground. They give you access to the most communication with the least effort. You'll see words like get, do, make, come, think, want. These aren't fancy, but they show up everywhere. Mastering them means mastering the core of the language. 2. Function over flair. Avoid nouns that are specific or situational, like giraffe or microwave. They don't unlock conversations. They just name things. Instead, prioritize verbs, question words, pronouns, and connectors. The scaffolding of speech. Think about it. In any language, what are people constantly doing? Asking things, explaining things, comparing things, talking about people, actions, and places. If you can say who is doing something, what they're doing when and where it's happening, and why, then you can talk about almost anything. 3. Combine like crazy. Once you've chosen your words, start testing them. Take 2 or 3 and mash them into a phrase. Doesn't matter if it's awkward at first, you're building muscles. Start with phrases like, I want this. Can you go? Where is that? I don't know why. This is good because I like it. Then mix it up. Swap I for you. Turn statements into questions. Make negatives. Add because, if, but. Soon, 50 words won't feel like a limitation. They'll feel like a toolbox, something you can reach into at any moment, and actually build sentences. Now, I want to be clear. This doesn't mean you're never going to learn more than 50 words. Of course you will. This is just the foundation. But most learners try to build a skyscraper without pouring concrete first. They collect vocabulary, but it sits unused. They memorize obscure words and skip over the basics. They keep adding new bricks to a structure that doesn't even have walls. Don't do that. Lay your 50-word foundation and master it. Say them, write them, sing them. Argue with yourself in the mirror using them. Force yourself to explain complex ideas using only simple words. You'll find that limitation breeds creativity, and creativity leads to confidence. And confidence, that's the fuel of fluency. I'll give you a tip that changed everything for me. Don't just memorize words. Memorize phrases built from those words. If one of your words is want, pair it with this, and go. Now you've got, I want this. Do you want to go? They want that. We don't want this place. That's 4 real-life sentences from just 3 words. This is how children learn, by playing with combinations. You can do the same. And you'll learn faster than you ever did by brute force memorization. Let's be real. The traditional way to learn a language is slow, painful, and discouraging. But starting with just 50 high-impact, well-chosen words, that's fast, focused, and liberating. It simplifies the chaos. It builds momentum. It creates early wins that make you want to keep going. And the best part? Once those 50 words are second nature, you're not a beginner anymore. You're someone who can actually function in the language. That shift in identity changes everything. From that moment on, every new word you learn has a place to fit. You're not stacking isolated bricks. You're adding new tools to an already strong set. So go ahead. Start building your list today. Look up a frequency list. Circle the 50 most useful words. And commit to using them like your life depends on it. Because those 50 words, they're not just vocabulary. They're the beginning of your fluency. Using the words in real life. Learning the words is one thing. Using them is everything. Because here's the trap most people fall into. They build their list. They review it. They memorize definitions. But they never use the words in real life. And that's like buying weights, reading the manual, and never lifting them. So in this section, I'm going to show you exactly how I turned those 50 words from knowledge into speech. Even without a tutor, even before I felt ready, even with almost no one to practice with. Let's start simple. 1. Talk to yourself all the time. This sounds weird, but it works. When I started this method, I talked to myself constantly. In the car, in the shower, while doing dishes. I'd take those 50 words and narrate what I was doing. I go there now. This is good. I don't want that. Where is the thing? It was broken, awkward, and exactly what I needed. Because when you talk to yourself, you remove the fear of mistakes. No judgment, no pressure, just practice. You get used to building thoughts with limited tools, and every time you do it, Those 50 words sink deeper into your brain, not as abstract vocabulary, but as usable speech. It's how toddlers learn. It's how you can too. 2. Use voice notes. This step changed everything for me. I started sending voice notes to myself. 1-minute recordings using only my core 50 every day. I am going to the place now. This is the thing I want because it is good. I don't know why she has that. It might sound repetitive, but repetition is how fluency forms. After a few days, I noticed something wild. I was speaking faster, thinking less. My tongue wasn't stumbling anymore. I played those notes back. I heard where I hesitated. I corrected myself out loud. And each time, my confidence grew. You don't need a teacher to get better. You just need to hear yourself improving. 3. Create mini dialogues. Another trick I used, pretend conversations. I'd sit alone and invent a back and forth using only those 50 words. Example, do you want this? No, I don't want that. I want the good thing. Why? Because I like this more. Simple, crude, but magical. Because now you're not just saying words, you're reacting. You're training your brain for real interaction. And when the real moment comes, your brain isn't shocked, it's ready. 4. Daily life immersion. Here's a fun one. Label your world. Use your 50 words to think in your target language all day. When you're hungry, I want food. When something's annoying, this is bad. When planning, we go there at that time. Make it a reflex, make it your default. If you walk around thinking, where is my phone, in your target language instead of your native one, you're winning. Because the goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to live in the language, even if it's just in your own head. 5. Real conversations, even short ones. This part is scary, but it's where the magic happens. At some point, you need to try your 50 words with other humans. You don't need to book a full conversation. Start with tiny moments. Ask a question at a restaurant. Say something to a friend who speaks the language. Join a chat app or voice group for beginners. Even if you only say 2 sentences, that's real. That's practice. That's progress. My first real interaction was 5 words. Where is this thing, please? I butchered the pronunciation. The person laughed, but they understood, and that small win felt better than 100 flashcards ever did. Because once you see that your words work, something shifts. You stop being afraid to speak. You start wanting to speak. 6. Gamify it. Here's something fun I did. I gave myself points. 1 point for every sentence I spoke using the 50.5 points for using them in public. 10 points for any full conversation using only those words. At 100 points, I'd reward myself. New headphones, a coffee from my favorite place. Something small, but motivating. Gamifying the process turned practice into a challenge. And challenges keep us consistent. 7. The mirror test. If you only try one thing from this section, try this. Stand in front of a mirror and talk. Say something. Anything. Use just your 50 words. Look yourself in the eye and explain a feeling, a problem, a plan. It doesn't have to make perfect sense. Just say it. This builds confidence in a very specific way. Why? Because it mimics real pressure. Eye contact, attention. You feel the tension, you stumble, you recover. Do this for 3 minutes a day. You'll see a change in a week. You'll speak faster, more naturally, more confidently. And when someone talks to you for real, it won't feel like a surprise. You've already rehearsed it every day. Why this works. The reason all of this works, talking to yourself, sending voice notes, mirror exercises, is because you're practicing output, not just input. Most learners drown in input. They watch videos, read subtitles, listen passively. But they never push themselves to speak, and speaking is messy. It's hard. But it's also the most important skill to build early, especially if you only have 50 words to work with. Because when you're limited, your brain learns faster. You're forced to be creative. You focus more. You remember more. This is what builds the fluency muscle, and that muscle only grows when it's used. So don't wait. Don't wait until you know enough. Don't wait until you feel ready. Don't wait until your accent is perfect. Just start. Speak badly, speak slowly, speak simply. But speak. Because the moment you use your 50 words in real life, they stop being words. They become your voice. Confidence. Grammar. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Grammar. For most people, grammar is the reason they don't speak. They think, what if I mess up the tense? What if I use the wrong article? What if I sound stupid? So they stay silent. They study more rules, watch more videos, buy grammar books, open apps, build charts. But they don't open their mouths. And that, right there, is the problem. Because language isn't math. It's not about getting a perfect score. It's about connection. And connection doesn't care about perfect grammar. Let me give you a real example. When I first started using my 50 words in real life, my grammar was awful. I said, I go yesterday. He want this. We know can do. Was it correct? No. Did people understand me? Yes. Did conversations happen? Yes. Did I improve? Absolutely. Because the truth is this, confidence creates fluency faster than correctness ever will. Why grammar slows? Most people down. Here's what happens when you obsess over grammar too early. You overthink every sentence. You hesitate before you speak. You translate in your head instead of speaking naturally. You fear judgment, so you say nothing. It creates this mental block, a filter that stops your thoughts from becoming words. And guess what? The brain doesn't learn well when it's anxious. Fluency grows best in flow, in messy, low-pressure, high-repetition practice, not in perfection. Ironically, grammar gets better after you start speaking, not before. Think like a child, speak like a child. Children are language learning machines. And guess what? They don't wait for a grammar lesson. They say, me want toy, her go now, no want eat. No one corrects them with conjugation tables. And yet, within a year or two, they're fluent. Why? Because they start with confidence, curiosity, and constant use. The structure comes later. The rules fall into place after the words become second nature. You are no different. You just need to give yourself permission to sound like a child for a little while. Because children don't say perfect things. They say real things. And real things matter more than correct things. What fluency actually means. Most people think fluency means sounding like a native speaker. That's wrong. Fluency means you can express yourself clearly. You can understand others well enough to respond. You don't freeze or panic when speaking. You can hold a conversation, even a simple one. None of those things require perfect grammar. You can be fluent with mistakes. You can be fluent with bad pronunciation. You can be fluent while still learning. In fact, that's how most people become fluent, by talking their way through the mess. The confidence loop. Here's what I call the confidence loop, the cycle that turns beginners into speakers. You say something simple using your core vocabulary. Someone understands you. You feel a tiny boost of confidence. That confidence makes you want to speak again. You speak more and get better through repetition. That loop is everything. But grammar anxiety breaks it. It makes you doubt your first sentence. So you don't speak. You don't get understood. You don't get that tiny win. And without that win, you don't continue. Confidence feeds momentum, and momentum beats memorization every time. Make grammar a tool, not a barrier. Now, to be clear, grammar does matter eventually. It helps you say more. Say it better. Say it with precision. But grammar should be a support tool, not a starting point. Think of it like learning to play guitar. You don't start with music theory and finger charts. You start by playing a few messy chords. You strum, you sing, you have fun. Later, when you're hooked, then you dive into the rules. Language works the same way. Let the grammar grow around your confidence, not ahead of it. My personal shift. There was a moment, early on, when I completely stopped worrying about grammar. I was in a shop trying to explain something simple. I said, "I go this place yesterday. Want go again." The clerk smiled, replied back in full sentences, understood me completely. And I realized I didn't need to sound perfect to connect. That day, I made a decision. I'd rather speak wrong and free than wait to speak right and stuck. That decision accelerated everything. Within weeks, I was using longer sentences, mixing in new words, picking up patterns without studying them. Because once you start talking, your brain starts noticing. You say, "I go." Someone replies with, "You went." Boom, you just learned the past tense. Naturally, in context, it sticks, it clicks, it builds. Talk now, fix later. So here's your permission slip. Start speaking now, fix grammar later. Say, "I know can go," if that's all you've got. Say, "She have the thing." Say it wrong, but say it clearly. Say it confidently. Say it often. That's the path to fluency. And every fluent person I've ever met followed it. No one gets fluent by waiting until they're perfect. They get fluent by making mistakes, out loud, in real conversations, over and over. A challenge for you right now, take your 50 words. Pick 10 of them. Create 3 short sentences, no matter how broken or simple. Say them out loud. Tomorrow, do it again, and again, and again. Don't worry about grammar. Worry about use. Worry about effort. Worry about trying. Because fluency isn't built on rules. It's built on reps. And confidence, not grammar, is what gets you there first. The plateau and what happens. So, you've learned your 50 words. You've used them. You're speaking. You're understanding. You're moving. And then, suddenly, things slow down. You hit the wall. It's like the rocket fuel runs out. Progress stalls, confidence dips, sentences feel repetitive, your brain feels stuck. Welcome to the plateau. Every language learner hits it. Nobody talks about it enough. But the plateau isn't a failure. It's not proof that your method stopped working. It's a signal that you're ready for the next stage. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. What is the plateau? The plateau is that weird middle zone between beginner and fluent. You're no longer clueless, but you're not comfortable either. You can have basic conversations, but deeper ones exhaust you. You understand a lot, but not enough to follow fast speech. You're functional, but not free, and that's frustrating, especially after all that early momentum. When you were learning new words daily, when everything felt fast, fresh, and fun. Now it feels like you're working twice as hard for half the progress. That's normal. And more importantly, that's growth. Why the plateau? Here's the truth. Language learning doesn't follow a straight line. In the beginning, every new word feels like a superpower. You go from 0 to 50, and suddenly you can speak. You go from silence to expression. That leap is thrilling. But after a while, gains become incremental. Now you're adding nuance. Not just go, but arrive, leave, return. Not just want, but prefer, need, wish. These are more complex, less frequent, harder to memorize. They take time. And unlike the first 50 words, which are everywhere, new words show up less. So you get fewer chances to practice them. Fewer wins, slower feedback. Your brain starts asking, am I getting worse? You're not. You're getting deeper. It's like climbing a mountain. The first 1,000 feet go fast. The next 100, slower, steeper, more technical. But that's how you reach the top. What to do when progress slows. So how do you push through the plateau? You upgrade your system with without breaking it. Here's how. 1. Expand the core start building from your 50 words. Look at the words you've mastered and ask, what words often appear with these? If go is in your 50, maybe add come, leave, stay. If want is there, add prefer, hope, need. You're not learning random words, you're growing clusters. These are mentally easier to remember and more fun to use in conversation. 2. Grow your listening muscles. At this stage, input becomes powerful. Watch shows in your target language, even if you don't understand everything. Don't pause, don't translate, just listen. Listen for your 50, then for the words you've recently added. You'll notice patterns, you'll hear transitions. The language starts feeling familiar, not foreign. That familiarity is the seed of fluency. Start with 5 to 10 minutes a day. Work up to longer sessions. And don't stress about understanding every word. Focus on recognition. That recognition rewires your brain, fast. 3. Play with grammar. Now, here's the twist. Now is the perfect time to start absorbing grammar. Not from textbooks, but from context. When you hear, she went, and you've been saying, she go, your brain goes, wait, that's different. Boom! You learn the past tense. Naturally, the more input you get, the more grammar clicks, without memorization. If you do want a grammar book at this stage, pick one that focuses on examples, not explanations. Use it like a menu, not a manual. Look things up when you need them, not all at once. 4. Stack new words with old sentences. This is my favorite trick. Take a sentence you already say fluently and swap out one word. You know, I want this. Now try, I prefer this. Or, I need that. Or, I don't like this thing. You're not building from scratch. You're upgrading existing phrases. This makes learning faster because your brain already knows the structure. You're just sliding in new meaning, like swapping toppings on your favorite pizza. New flavor, same base. 5. Track conversations, not flashcards. At this stage, stop measuring your success by how many words you've memorized. Instead, count. How many conversations you had this week. How long you lasted in a group chat. How often you responded without translating. How often you chose to speak instead of staying silent. That's the real scoreboard. Because words are just data. Speech is transformation. Track what moves you forward, not what looks good in an app. Embrace Fluent enough. Here's something nobody tells you. You don't need to be 100% fluent to feel fluent. Most people stop themselves with this lie. I'm not fluent yet. But guess what? If you can order food, chat with a friend, ask for directions, and understand a story, you're fluent enough. Enough to travel. Enough to connect. Enough to keep growing naturally. Don't chase some mythical, perfect fluency. Chase freedom. Freedom to speak, to live, to enjoy the language. The plateau means you're winning. This is your reminder. The plateau doesn't mean you've failed. It means you've made it far enough that the game has changed. Now it's not about sprints. It's about showing up. Day after day. Conversation after conversation. Mistake after mistake. That's the grind where real fluency is forged. And the fact that you're here, watching this, learning this, means you're already in the top 5% of language learners. You didn't quit. You didn't stop at hello. You're building something bigger. The plateau is not a dead end. It's just the road getting steeper. And you're strong enough to keep climbing. The confidence compounding effect. Let me tell you something powerful. Confidence doesn't just help fluency, it multiplies it. And once it starts to grow, it grows fast. That's what I call the confidence compounding effect. The psychological snowball that turns simple, broken sentences into bold, fearless conversation. It's the moment when you stop asking, "Am I good at this?" and start saying, "I can do this." Let's break it down, the first win. Remember the first time you spoke a sentence and someone understood? Maybe it was just, "I want this," or "Where is that?" It wasn't perfect, but it worked. And in that moment, your brain got a hit of something better than dopamine, belief. You thought, "Wait, I can do this. That wasn't so hard." That's the first win. It's tiny, but it matters more than any flashcard or quiz score. Because that one win, it unlocks the second and the third. And before you know it, you're not just studying the language, you're living it. Small wins stack fast. Confidence doesn't explode all at once. It stacks, silently, steadily. You say one sentence, then another, then two in a row, then a 5-minute chat with a stranger. At first, it feels fragile, like a tower of cards. But every time you speak, even if it's awkward, you're adding bricks. And soon, you've built a castle out of broken grammar and brave attempts. People will look at you and say, "Wow, you're fluent." And you'll smile because you remember when you were terrified to say hello. Mistakes become fuel. In the beginning, mistakes feel like proof that you're not ready. But once confidence kicks in, mistakes become evidence that you're growing. You forget a word, no big deal. You mix up genders, you laugh it off. You say the wrong verb and fix it mid-sentence. Why? Because now your ego isn't in the driver's seat. Your progress is. You've shifted from perfection mode to performance mode. You're focused on making ideas happen, not sentences perfect. And that's when fluency skyrockets. You start playing with the language. The real sign of confidence isn't just speaking, it's playing. You start joking in the language. You try accents. You test new phrases just to see if they land. You experiment, you mess up, you recover. And most importantly, you enjoy the process, because language stops being a subject and becomes your sandbox. Others feel it too. Here's a secret. Confidence is contagious. When you speak with belief, even if your words are simple, people respond better. They lean in, they smile, they help you. They want to keep talking. Why? Because you're not transmitting insecurity, you're sharing energy. And energy matters more than accuracy, especially in real-world conversations. So even if your sentence is grammatically wrong, your tone says, I'm here, I'm trying, I care. And that creates connection, which creates more conversations, which builds more confidence, which leads to, you guessed it, more fluency. That's the loop. That's the compound effect in action. You learn faster. There's real science behind this. When you're confident, your brain enters what's called a flow state. That's when learning is effortless. You're not second-guessing every word. You're absorbing patterns. You're forming habits. Suddenly, phrases stick. Grammar makes sense. Listening becomes easier. Why? Because confidence kills hesitation. And hesitation is the enemy of memory. When you trust yourself, your brain relaxes. And when it relaxes, it remembers. Confidence turns your brain from a filter into a sponge. You start seeking opportunities. Here's where things really accelerate. When confidence grows, you stop waiting for opportunities. You start creating them. You join language meetups. You text that friend who speaks the language. You start watching shows without subtitles, just to challenge yourself. You ask strangers for directions, on purpose. You go from passive learner to active speaker. And every single one of those choices reinforces your belief. This is who I am now. I speak this language. Not, I'm trying to learn. Not, someday I'll be fluent. But, I'm doing it, right now. That shift in identity is everything. You change how you see yourself. This is the biggest part. Confidence doesn't just change how you speak. It changes how you see yourself. At first, you were the person who struggles with languages. Then you were someone who's trying. Then, without even noticing, you became someone who speaks. You changed. And that change doesn't just affect language. It ripples out to everything. You take more risks. You try new things. You trust your ability to grow, even when it's hard. That's not just fluency, that's transformation. Keep feeding the flame. Confidence isn't something you earn once and forget. It's a flame you have to keep feeding. So here's how to keep it burning. Speak every day, even if it's just to yourself. Celebrate small wins like big victories. Talk before you're ready. Laugh at your mistakes. Help someone else who's learning, because the more you use it, the stronger it gets. And the stronger it gets, the faster you grow. From 50 words to full power. Let's zoom out for a second. You started this journey with just 50 words. 50. And now, you're on the path to real fluency, real connection, real confidence. Not because you know every grammar rule, not because you memorized 1,000 words, but because you showed up, you spoke, you believed. That belief compounds, that belief multiplies. And soon it becomes unstoppable. So remember this. You don't need to wait to feel fluent. You just need one win, then another, then another. And before long, you'll look back and think, I can't believe I ever doubted myself. Final reflections and getting fluent for life. You've come a long way. From a single crazy idea, just 50 words, to a new way of thinking, speaking, and living in a language. So let's take a moment. Let's breathe. Let's look at what this really is. Because this isn't just about vocabulary. It's about who you're becoming. This was never about just 50 words. It's not a gimmick, not a trick. It's a mindset shift. We were taught that fluency comes from mastery, from having it all memorized, from years of grinding through grammar. But fluency doesn't wait until you know everything. It begins when you use what you do know over and over until it becomes effortless. Those 50 words weren't the finish line. They were the ignition. The spark that lit the fire. And that fire, it's still burning. What you've built is real. You've built something most people never do, a working, living, practical ability to communicate in a new language. You did it with less. You did it without waiting. You did it even when it felt awkward. That's power. That's fluency in motion. And the most exciting part? You're just getting started. The new normal. Right now, you may not even notice the shifts, but they're happening. You hear words you know in TV shows. You recognize grammar you never studied. You think in short phrases without translating. You speak up even when you make mistakes. That's the new normal. You're no longer someone who's trying to learn. You're someone who uses the language, someone who belongs in it, someone who grows with it. And once that shift happens, it sticks. What fluency for life looks like. Here's the truth. Fluency never really ends. There's always more to learn. New slang, new accents, new topics. But the goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to be free. Free to have a conversation. Free to express a feeling. Free to laugh, love, and connect in another language. That's fluency for life. Not as a project, but as a part of who you are. Keep expanding without overwhelming. As you move forward, keep your method simple. Don't fall back into the trap of trying to memorize everything at once. Instead, add words in clusters. Learn new phrases from conversations and context. Watch content you enjoy. Keep speaking, keep writing, keep using. Grow your fluency the way you grew your 50-word base, through repetition, immersion, and connection. Celebrate the milestones. Don't forget to celebrate. Every new conversation is a milestone. Every word you use without thinking is a victory. Every time you choose to speak, even when it's scary, is worth applause. You're not behind. You're not late. You're not still learning. You're winning. Right now. Share it with others. One of the best ways to stay fluent is to help someone else start. Share your 50-word method. Tell your story. Show others that you don't need perfect grammar or thousands of words. Just the courage to begin. Teach what you've learned. Talk with other learners. Create conversations. Spread the spark. Language is connection. Fluency is a gift. And gifts are meant to be given. You've already won. You didn't just learn a method, you proved something to yourself. You showed that you can start small and create something powerful, that you don't need permission to speak, that your voice matters, even in another language. You took something overwhelming and turned it into momentum. You took doubt and turned it into confidence. You took 50 words and made them enough. And that's a victory few people ever reach. Final words, it starts now. So here's my challenge to you. Take the first step, or the next step, today. Build your list. Speak your words, use your voice, make the language yours. Because you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present, and practice, and play, and grow. That's how real fluency is built, and you, right now, are already on that path. So keep going. You've got this. You're not learning a language anymore. You're living in one. If this video helped shift your mindset, even just a little, let me know in the comments. What's the one word you'll start using today? And if you're ready to build your own fluency from the ground up, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because you don't need 1% words to start speaking. You just need one brave moment and 50 good ones to back it up. I'm proud of you for making it this far. Now go speak your story.